As we age, things change. The economy changes. Sometimes our marriage condition changes. Our health changes. Our opportunities change. Our income, our assets. There's changes all over the place. We want to give you the opportunity to be the most prepared, to have the best strategy possible. And sometimes they're not strategies that everybody thinks is clear. New times deal with new solutions. We're going to address some of those on Consider This Program today. Well, good morning and welcome back to Consider This Program. I'm your host, Joe Clark.
And I'm Daren Hardesty.
Happy to have you along. Daren is one of our senior advisors at the Financial Enhancement Group, and thrilled to have him along. He's over halfway through his certified financial planner in education. I love, for those of you who know me, I'm an avid reader and a big believer in education, and that's one of the reasons we have our planning team, which Daren is a big part of. The whole planning team comes together, and we sit down and deal with these kind of topics, these kind of issues. That's why we have them on the radio show. Today, we're talking about choices and options you have as you age in terms of where to live. And that may sound a little peculiar. When I was a young boy, so we're talking about 8, 9 years old is probably when I figured this out. We had neighbors. We lived on Glenwood in Muncie, Indiana. And just a small neighborhood, and you know, the Bromleys were one side, the Flynns were the other, the Conrads were next. It was a great little neighborhood for young boys to be able to grow up in. And catty corner to us were the Godfreys, and this was this always finely dressed woman and finely dressed guy. He actually sold suits and ties. I guess that's why he was dressed the way that he was. Mm-hmm. And wonderful people. And I remember being invited into their house. I don't remember why, Daren, but I got invited into their house. So we're talking about, this is 1972, 73. So just a few years back, mm-hmm. right? Been a few sunsets since then. And they took me through the house. I don't know why they thought they needed to show an 8 or 9 year old that, but they showed me their 2 individual bedrooms. Right now, as an 8 or 9 year old boy, I'm perplexed, right? Sure. It's like husband and wife, mom and dad stay in the same bed. You know, what is this all about? And, you know, as I got older and older and I talked to them and conversed with them, I liked my neighbors. I think age has wisdom, and I did my best to learn from all of them. And, you know, it was what they called a marriage of convenience. It was the first time I learned being married had a tax impact, mm-hmm. right? So yes, I am a geek, you know, so I was probably 12 years old. It was 6th grade. I could remember it. Sam Dalton was my 6th grade teacher, and I'm working on tax strategies of why it mattered if you're married in terms of a tax return. Yeah. They had both had previous marriages where the spouses had passed away. It was cheaper for them to own one house, share the bills, right? Not the bed. And it was a marriage of convenience, and it had to do with tax, and it had to do with income and assets. And, you know, that was my first exposure to it. Folks, I can tell you over the last 34 years, I've seen this happen a lot more than once. 2 brothers in Lafayette that had never been married lived together until one of them finally died at 83 or 84. Watched that. And Daren, you're going to run through some of those scenarios that are out there and options in this changing world. This is becoming more of a normal situation than it is an abnormal.
Yeah. And, you know, the advancements of understanding our mental health, what makes people happy, what's going to keep people from deteriorating faster in their older age, you know, taking the finances out of it, you know, just having a partner or a group of friends or a social circle that you can be around on a regular basis, it plays a huge role in how happy you are and how, you know, in the end, and how long you can live and, you know, how much fulfillment you can get out of your life. We have a family last year who was moving to a living facility, an assisted living facility out of state to be closer to her sister. Well, then COVID hits. And a part of COVID, one of the tragedies that, you know, we're going to look back on, I think, for many, many years and talk about and hopefully never do again is the isolation that we caused to a lot of our people that were living in assisted living facilities to keep them safe for their physical health, but just the impact that it had on their mental health. Luckily, her son was able to take her to a facility and get her out of there to a facility that's closer to where he lived. And, you know, I just actually spoke with him recently, and she's doing much, much better because she's actually being a lot more social. All of that to say, I think people generally, that's kind of why they kind of want to maybe cohabitate with another person, whether they're married or not. It's just to make sure that they have some kind of a social life that's going on where they're having conversation, they're spending time with other people than just themselves. But there are financial benefits to that as well. Joe, you hinted at the tax return. A lot of our younger families, I bring this up a lot. We had a family where he was telling me, "Oh, I'm thinking about proposing to my girlfriend," and I said, "Well, when are you thinking?"
That's my boy.
That's
my boy.
He's thinking I'm being all romantic, like, where are you gonna propose that? Like, tell me the situation. All I'm thinking about is, are you gonna be married within this calendar year?
December 31st, baby.
Because we can save you a lot in taxes this year. So the tax, the way it's currently structured, the tax code does benefit if you are a married person compared to a single filer. Married filing jointly, the amount of AGI or adjusted gross income you can have every year and be taxed at a certain rate is much better. It's almost half for most of it. It's not the entire way, but pretty much you can make twice as much and be taxed half as much as what you would from being married to.
So there's
a
lot
filer.
So years before you ever got into this industry, there used to be what they called the marriage penalty. And it was really the other way around. And the IRS had worked very, very diligently to fix that. Truth be told, if you have two people who have equal income, it's not that advantageous or disadvantageous. But when you have income disparity,
Yep.
right, or any of those issues that are going on, it makes all the sense in the world. I have joked with people that I know that are single. It said, listen, you need to find somebody that a marriage of convenience. They don't even need to live with you.
Yeah.
Right. This is just being silly.
It comes down to how much do you dislike the IRS, and so at that point, it's a lot of people it does sound silly, but in the end, we've said many times, taxes can be can deteriorate your retirement assets faster than almost anything.
I've made mistakes on this. You talk without a script for 22 years, you're going to say some bloopers,
Sure.
right? And I have said that I hate the IRS publicly, and I've retracted that as many times as I can. I will do it again today. I do not hate them. They serve a very viable purpose inside of what's going on inside of our country, and we do need bridges and roads, and we do need military, and we do need teachers. And
Absolutely.
so, this is not, we don't write this as a way to evade taxation. And those of you who know the families that we serve, we have a program called the Better Giver. Many of our families are very charitably inclined. I am. We give away a lot of places to help people that are in need where we can direct money. My viewpoint has always been there's two tax codes. There's one for the informed and one for the uninformed. And I will never let my team take you into the gray or black areas. You just don't need to go there. But when I can look at your tax return and I can see that you're giving money away over here, or that you're not optimizing your own return based on the code that they have written, then I find that to be a mistake. And
Absolutely.
So, what I try to do is to try to find operational efficiency at the Financial Enhancement Group, right? I want to take care of the 37 people on our team. That's our job. Dr. Gary Brazel is our chief operating officer. That's his job, is to find those operating efficiencies so that we can best serve the families we take care of. We continue to grow. And we grow because we are committed to telling this story, to getting people to understand what James Clear told me a few years ago in Atomic Habits. He's an author. He says success is never dependent upon one thing, but failure can be. And that's why we have 5 critical elements. All 5 I have watched derail people's financial plans, into each one of the 5, not all of them, right? So success is never dependent upon just saving and accumulating money. Savings is, successful retirement is not dependent just on having your trust in order, right? Success is not dependent on just doing your annual tax plan. But by golly, if you don't do one of those 3, you can jeopardize everything else that you've done all the way through. And that's why we encourage the Next Steps meeting. Just come in. It's 90 minutes. It's complimentary. Sit down with Daren or somebody on our team. We'll give you things to consider today, things you're going to want to consider in the future. And if we choose to partner together, what FEG will do for you, and we'll put it into writing. Call 800-928-4001 or go to yourlifeafterwork.com. Get signed up for your Next Steps meeting. So, when we're talking about this, and Daren, I'll get back to you here in a second, but when we're talking about this, we're not talking about cheating or anything else. What
Absolutely,
we're talking about is optimizing your tax story so that you have more options and more opportunities to self-direct the areas of the economy that you want to most support, whether that be your kids, whether that be the local school, the Christian Center, Men for Men, an Animal Protection League, Humane Society, your church, whatever that is, giving you the opportunity to make that decision as opposed to sending it off to somewhere else where they make the decisions for you.
Yeah, and Joe, you've said many times, and it's true, we live in a country where most of us are very blessed, and we're so blessed that sometimes we walk down on the sidewalk and there might be a quarter laying on the ground, and it just might be too much of an effort to lean over and pick that quarter up. But in our firm, in our company, everybody in there, we're not wasting that quarter or that penny, whatever it may be. We're going to pick it up. And the same goes for your taxes and how we pay attention. It is our job to make sure that we're optimizing as much as we can. And one, I know we're running short, but I want to make sure I hit a few things that I saw last year. We had a family who they were selling some property and they were moving down to Florida. They were ready to be full-time in Florida. And one of the facilities, and many facilities are like this now, where there's kind of a 3-step process. First, it's pretty much independent living. You've got a hospital on site. You've got some medical staff ready. And then as you decline or progress into the next phase, they have more assisted living all the way down to the nursing home facility. And it costs a lot of money to get in there and reserve a spot. So things that people can be thinking about, knowing that at one point you may be by yourself, whether it's you or your spouse, you might start looking into those facilities and maybe putting a down payment or maybe putting something that you can reserve that spot when you're ready to make that move. In a lot of the facilities, the medical expense, there's a large upfront cost. So if there is that large upfront cost, you can actually potentially, if everything works out, have a larger deduction that year to make sure that you're getting a medical itemized deduction that you can take advantage of. This is all stuff we pay attention to. It's stuff that most people don't think about because you have more important things to think about. But for us, this is what we do. We are always trying to find the best way to optimize your money so that it will last as long as you need it, provide the income and the lifestyle that you want. And it's why we're a great team to work with all the time.
And that annual tax package that we send out talked about income variability. If you're moving into one of those facilities and you have a huge medical deduction this year, now is the time to make charitable gifts. Mm-hmm. The second thing, we want to reduce your income as much as we can so you have a higher ability to be able to take that medical deduction.
Yep.
Go to yourlifeafterwork.com or call 800-928-4001. Get signed up for your Next Steps meeting. We look forward to sitting down, having a cup of coffee or a glass of water, and sharing some ideas with you. 800-928-4001.